Hey, good afternoon, guys. This is Jared, CNY Bandit. Hope you guys are having a great Sunday afternoon. So I want to do a very quick video today. This was in response to a question that I had from Mr. Dyer's Musings. So he's another channel here on YouTube, and he does a lot of vintage Boy Scout videos. And very knowledgeable individual. He's one of my favorite channels that I recently discovered in the past several months. We are in a couple mutual groups, at least one mutual group on Facebook that I'm aware of, and we've had some interactions there, but we've never got to meet in person or anything. But he had recently posted a video about the Horace Kephart knife, and I believe the title of the video was something along the lines of, Horace Kephart's knife, is it the Excalibur of bushcraft knives? And I made a comment how I had made my own version of a Kephart using an old butcher knife, essentially. So just wanted to do this video in a quick response to him. He had some questions about if there was anything about my knife in particular that made it stand out. So let's dive into this. So these are two of my favorite fixed blades, and then actually third favorite fixed blade, which is in my kitchen collection. So I live local to Utica, New York, which is right in central New York, heart of New York State, basically, if you looked right in the center. And Utica Cutlery, also known as Cutmaster at one point, they owned rights to the Cutmaster name. But Utica Cutlery is local to me, and I like to collect old Utica stuff, whether it is just Utica memorabilia, and I really, being a knife junkie, I do like the Utica stuff. And I came across Utica Forge knives over the years, and this is one of the first ones I had. So this is a 6-inch heavy vegetable knife. Also could just be called, 6-inch butcher knife. So these Utica Forge knives were different than some of the Cutmaster ones later on. And these were actually hammer forged. Some of the older ones were hand forged, hand hammered. So this is one that I picked up, and you can see the way the blade tapers from the spine down to the bottom. It gets thinner on the way down, and that goes right along with the grind on this knife. If you guys are wondering about the patina on this knife, this is the one that came on it when I purchased it. I think I got this for like $1 or $2 at a sale. So it's kind of a forced patina that they put on with something. It will not rub off like some of your forced mustard patinas, so I'm not sure if they did it, if it was part of the forging process. Some of my other Utica Forge knives do not look like this. Anyways, I took a 7-inch. This one seems to be a little more rare. I don't see the 6-inch Utica Forge ones much, and I kept this one original. I cleaned it up, oiled the handle and such. I haven't done anything with the scales. So this was a 7-inch Utica Forge so I took the 7-inch Utica Forge knife, and I wanted to do this very cheaply and very quickly. So I didn't have to, this is all factory edge on this knife. I basically, if I took and kind of lined up with the belly right where I wanted it, and then I just took off the bull nose. That's all I did. I took off the bull nose. And of course, if you look down below, I had to remove part of the blade, and then I had to take off part of the handle back here. And if you look on this knife, again, has the same type of deal at the pommel, where the blade is thicker in the back and goes down in the front. And because I took off some of this, it gets very thin on this edge. Now for the scales in this knife, I used some pallet wood that I had that was quarter sawn oak, and I soaked it in Minwax wooden hardener for about 3 days. I had no more bubbles left, and then I wound up, when these were roughly shaped, I 2-part epoxied with some marine grade epoxied them on and clamped them, left it for at least another good 1.5 to 2 days. Once I got done doing that, when I clamped them on, I had already run the pins through with epoxy around them. These were brass cup hooks that I ran through and used those as the pins. After all that was said and done, I shaped the handle more with a combination of files, sanding by hand, carving with a knife, and got everything to where I was happy with it. And then this is the original patina that was on the blade, and you can see some of those blues and yellows in there kind of shining through, and that's from using you know, from cutting things. You can really see it on that side. You can catch some of those rainbow colors. So absolutely beautiful knife. So, but those colors are from, you know, cutting meats and stuff with this, because this was a butcher knife for the first part of its life. So I wanted to try to do this according to Horace Kephart's description of his knife. So I wound up doing a 4.5-inch handle, 4.5-inch blade. I have the, it does taper from a little thicker down here to a little thinner, so it has that swell at the end to keep things from sliding this way. And I have the cutting edge right down to the edge of the finger guard, so nothing's wasted. It is different than a regular traditional Kephart knife as he described it. He described his blade as being 1 inch across. This is closer to a good 1.125, maybe heavy 1.125 up top. So not quite a true spear point. The belly does continue up a little bit further past center point than it does here, but again, just overall great knife. Now, a lot of the newer Kepharts that you see wind up weighing around, you know, 5 to 6 ounces. A lot of people are doing 1/4 inch stuff. This guy's running about 3/32 on the back, so not an 1/8 inch. But still, I have batoned a little with this very lightly, and while batoning, I'm going to say splitting, you know, going down through and pushing down through a piece of wood this way. I have lightly batoned on the end. But this knife is no different in thickness than my LT Wright Bushcrafter HC. This was my first bushcraft knife gifted to me by a coworker at work, and this blade I carry all the time. This is like an everyday carry. It's with me a lot. So handles very close to the same. This is probably about 4.25 on the handle. Again, mine's 4.5. And the blade on this one, I sharpened the LT Wright right down to a point. So this is exactly 4 inches from the tip straight back to where it meets the hilt of the knife, and you can see the difference there. And that difference looks a little weird on camera, but it's only about a 1/2 inch difference between this, say between the top of the, I put my hand up there for a reference, you know, so, you know, width of a finger almost, you know, so good probably 1/2 inch, that's it. So this knife measures pretty much exactly 9 inches. Horace Kephart described his knife that he carried as around 4 ounces, so that's what I was shooting for. So this knife, even with the stabilized scales, with the brass, with the epoxy, this knife weighs in at 3.8 ounces, so an extremely light knife. It's very, very, very well balanced. I found it an absolute joy that, you know, I essentially fashioned the knife, and this is something similar to what the old hickory modifications would be, where someone takes an old hickory knife and modifies it into a Kephart style knife. So you can still do the same with an old hickory. This is 1095. The heat treat on these knives seems to be a little bit better than some of the old hickory. So this was a forged blade instead of being a stamp cut steel, cold rolled steel, which is your old hickories. This was actually hammer forged, and was the heat treat on these old Utica Forge knives are just absolutely spectacular. So again, very nice knife. It's awesome. It's very light, and I had just taken an old sheath that I got from a knife. Had another knife in this from eBay, and it fit in there perfectly. It stays in there nice, you know, not anything super fancy, but this is just an absolute joy to carry this knife and use. So I guess what sets it apart, Mr. Dyer, is that, you know, I got to modify and do it myself, and this was the first full knife project I guess I've done as far as modifications. I've done a lot of refurbishing, cleaning up, fixing, things like that, but this is just, I absolutely love it. The wood hardener gave it kind of that glossy finish, which is starting to wear in some places, which is fine, but again, nothing soaks through this knife. So it's totally waterproof. So blood, guts, things like that. As when this was a 7-inch butcher knife, I used this to process my deer, you know, along with some other fillet knives, things like that. And I was just like, you know, I would love to have that steel in an everyday carry blade. And then once I was introduced to the Kephart style of knives via the LT Wright Bushcrafter, my friend at work, I was like, you know what, I'd like to see a traditional Kephart. I'd like to have, when I saw pictures of like Utica Forge, things like that. This Bushcrafter is a little bit thicker in the handle, and it's made of, you know, handles are micarta, also marine grade epoxy, the fisheye bolts. I added the thumb scallops in, again modified the cutting edge to get rid of the little ricasso that was there, sharpening stop, I guess. And then you know, added some copper wire, things like that. And this was brighter oatmeal micarta. If I scrub it down with a toothbrush and some Dawn, it cleans it up a bit. But this knife has been great. Love it. This is heavy, though. This is, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I weighed it. I believe the Bushcrafter HC weighs in around 5.2, 5.3 ounces. So, you know, I don't think it's as heavy as a 5.7. I want to say it's like 5.3, 5.4, somewhere in that range. But still, nice knife. I do feel this one in my pocket. I feel it on my belt. This one I do not. This is only 3.8 ounces for this guy. For a bigger knife, same thickness. The handle makes a huge difference, but also the thickness of the blade, because I had to go with that taper that was naturally in the blade. I did not taper it down like that. Really lightened the back part of the knife and kept more of the weight of the blade up front. As you can see, you know, it does thin down pretty good right there, but it doesn't affect the strength of the knife at all. Again, I've processed, done some fire starting with this guy and whatever, but absolutely love it. And it's a nice slicer. So this has an asymmetrical grind on it. Has primary bevel this way, secondary bevel, but on the back, you don't have that secondary bevel. It's really, see if I can catch it here. It's more of a convex. It just starts with that, what would be the secondary bevel on the other side. That's the only sharpened bevel, and the rest of it really just curves this way really nice. You can kind of see it there a little bit. There's a little bit of a heavy, thickest spot kind of right there. So again, a little bit more convex on this side. So it's asymmetrical grind is what that's called. Not very common that you would see in a regular knife. Hopefully that's gives you an idea of what I like to carry. I love a fixed blade if I can. And in my pocket too, I mentioned old Cutmaster stuff in my pocket lately, just as long as I got you guys on video here. I do carry, this is an old Cutmaster U.S. Coast Guard knife, 1944 approved. So I have my video focus on lock, but it's approved U.S. CG, U.S. Coast Guard, 1944. Approved, and it says Cutmaster USA on there. Absolutely love this little guy. So this has been on a Night Eyes carabiner, essentially hanging on a little leather dangler. So this hangs right inside my front pocket of my jeans, my work stuff, whatever. And this has just been an awesome rope knife. So I love this thing. It's been handy for carpentry work, whether it's been, you know, shaving the edge of a board, or, you know, maybe coping out. So some people call this a coping blade. So definitely notches well and things like that. Just a nice old traditional slip joint. And so if I have a folding blade and a fixed blade, typically it's these two. This guy is always in my bag, always close by. So also have used this for some things on the carpentry job. Goes in the woods with me. Definitely deer processing. This one's just, you know, good for table stuff in the kitchen. Saying a good 4.5-inch blade on this, so very reasonable blade, and it's not too big. I have glove size large hands, but I'm not a very big guy, so I mean I'm probably on the smaller end of a large glove size, and there's full purchase on that knife. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments below what you guys like to carry and what you think. And Mr. Dyer, I hope that maybe answers your question. And yeah, love a good Kephart. Fallen in love with them. Hope you guys have a great afternoon, and we will see you guys later. CNY Bandit out.